She asked me to pretend to be her father, but I had no idea what was about to happen as soon as I took on that role. The moment the small hand grabs my jacket, I know something is catastrophically wrong. Not because children don't approach strangers on busy city streets, but because this particular child is gripping expensive Italian fabric with the kind of desperate strength that speaks to genuine terror, rather than just being lost. And when I look down into wide, dark eyes that are currently staring at me like I'm the only safe thing in a world that suddenly become dangerous, my first instinct is to scan for the threat before I even think to ask what she needs. Marcus is still talking numbers on my phone, but the words have become meaningless background noise, because every defensive instinct I've honed over 20 years of surviving in a world where danger wears polite smiles and expensive suits is screaming that this 6-year-old stranger just made me responsible for whatever comes next. And then she speaks in a trembling whisper that makes my blood run cold with implications I'm not yet ready to process. Please, pretend you're my dad. The request is so absurd and so desperately sincere that for 3 seconds I just stare at her trying to calculate what situation would make a child beg a complete stranger to play family in the middle of downtown foot traffic. And then her small arms are wrapping around my waist with fierce grip that triggers protective instinct, before logic can intervene with questions about why I'm suddenly involved in something that's clearly more complicated than just a lost kid. My phone is forgotten. Marcus's explanation about quarterly projections cutting off as I end the call and drop into threat assessment mode that saved my life more times than I care to count, and that's when I see him. The man standing 15 feet away, pretending to check his watch while tracking this child with the kind of focused attention that makes it very clear he's not a concerned citizen, wondering if she needs help. I know predatory observation when I see it because I've used variations of it myself, when hunting targets who don't know they're being tracked, and watching that particular brand of calculated interest directed at a terrified child holding on to me like I'm her only salvation flips a switch in my brain that overrides every logical question about appropriate involvement. The man's posture shifts when he realizes I've noticed him, his hand moving toward his jacket, in a gesture I recognize from years of reading body language that precedes violence, and my own hand comes up to rest on the little girl's shoulder, in a protective stance that's pure instinct wrapped in deliberate message about exactly how stupid approaching right now would be. You're safe. I've got you. The promise comes out with more certainty than I have any right to feel, given I don't know her name or what she's running from. But something about the way she relaxes fractionally against my side suggests she needed to hear exactly that reassurance delivered with absolute conviction. 2 of my security detail materialize from their positions nearby without me having to signal. All professional intimidation in suits that don't quite hide the fact they're prepared for immediate violence if the situation requires it. And suddenly the dynamic has shifted from child with stranger to very clear demonstration of exactly how protected she currently is by someone who doesn't make idle threats. The man tracking her processes the upgraded danger level with visible calculation, his hand dropping away from whatever he was reaching for as he takes a step back and then another, and I watch him disappear into the crowd, with the kind of strategic retreat that confirms he's working for someone who taught him when to abandon approach rather than commit to confrontation. He can't win. I wait until he's completely gone before looking down at the little girl who's still clinging to me with desperate trust that's both heartbreaking and strategically useful if I can figure out what exactly is happening here. Can you tell me your name? My voice comes out gentler than my usual tone because terrorizing children isn't on my list of acceptable behaviors, regardless of how many other moral lines I've crossed professionally, and I watch her debate whether sharing information is safe before apparently deciding that anyone who just scared away the bad man deserves some level of honesty. Lily and Mama said to run to you because you'd keep me safe, and she was right, because the man went away. The explanation lands like a physical blow, because it confirms that this wasn't random child instinct but deliberate maternal strategy. Which means somewhere nearby there's a woman who looked at me specifically and decided I was trustworthy enough to protect her daughter despite being a complete stranger, or possibly not a stranger at all if she somehow knows who I am, and what I'm capable of. My eyes scan the crowd, looking for whoever sent this child to me with such desperate faith, searching for the mother who made the impossible choice to use a dangerous man as sanctuary against worse danger. And that's when I see her. A woman maybe 30 feet away, moving through the crowd in the opposite direction with purposeful stride that's drawing the attention I'm no longer receiving. She's leading them away, I realize with sharp clarity that's equal parts impressed and furious. She sent her daughter to me for protection, and then made herself the more interesting target to ensure whoever's hunting them follows her instead of doubling back for the child. It's tactically sound and emotionally devastating in equal measure. The kind of sacrificial maternal calculation that speaks to someone who understands exactly how predators think and is willing to use that knowledge to save her daughter, even if it means walking straight into danger alone. I catch a glimpse of her profile before she disappears around a corner, just enough to register dark hair and determined features that trigger something in my memory that refuses to crystallize into specific recognition. And then she's gone. And I'm left standing on a busy street with a 6-year-old stranger who apparently has a mother brave enough or desperate enough to trust me with the most precious thing in her world. "Where did your mama go? She said she had to make the bad man follow her instead of me, and that you'd keep me safe until she came back." The simple explanation delivered with childish trust makes my hands curl into fists because whatever situation this woman is tangled in requires the kind of intervention I'm very good at providing, and sending her daughter to me suggests she knows exactly who I am and what resources I have access to, even if I can't immediately place how she knows me. My security team is already moving to track the woman who just used me as emergency childcare, their efficiency suggesting they've caught enough details to start pulling surveillance footage and identifying everyone involved in this situation. And I'm calculating next moves when Lily tugs on my jacket again with small hand that stopped shaking now that immediate danger has passed. "Are you really going to keep me safe like Mama said?" "Yes. While you're with me, nothing touches you. I promise." The vow comes out with absolute certainty that surprises me, given I don't make promises lightly, and definitely don't make them to children whose names I learned 30 seconds ago. But something about the trust in her dark eyes makes it impossible to offer anything less than complete commitment to protecting her, until her mother returns from whatever sacrificial distraction she's currently running. I guide Lily toward my car with gentle hand on her shoulder, already issuing quiet orders to my security team about finding the woman who just made herself bait to save her daughter. And as we move through the crowd, I'm trying to shake the feeling that I've seen those features before. In some context, my brain refuses to access beneath years of deliberately forgotten history. "What's your mama's name?" "Elena. Her name is Elena, and she's really smart and brave, and she said you'd help even though we're strangers." The name hits like a bullet I didn't see coming, stopping me mid-stride with enough force that Lily looks up with concern that suggests my expression just did something alarming. And suddenly I'm not standing on a busy street anymore, but back in a different time when that name meant something that hurt too much to remember clearly. Elena, the woman I loved with everything I had before circumstances and choices pulled us apart in ways I thought were permanent. The one person who understood who I actually was beneath the violence and power and careful control I wear like armor. And if that Elena is the woman who just sent her daughter to me, then everything about this situation just became significantly more complicated than emergency child protection. My hands are shaking slightly as I open my car door and help Lily inside with careful attention to her comfort, despite the chaos suddenly roaring through my head. And I'm trying to process the implications of Elena being alive and nearby, and apparently desperate enough to use me as protection after 7 years of complete silence, that I'd assumed meant she wanted nothing to do with the man I'd become. 7 years of wondering what happened to her, of deliberately not using resources to find her because she'd made her choice clear when she disappeared without explanation, of trying to forget what it felt like to be seen as something other than just dangerous. And now she's somewhere in this city running from threats that require the kind of help only I can provide. "Is your mama in trouble?" "She said bad people were following us, and she couldn't make them stop. And then she saw you, and said you were the only person who could keep me safe. So she told me what to say, and pushed me toward you, and ran the other way." The explanation confirms every terrible instinct about what just happened, and I'm simultaneously proud of Elena's tactical thinking, and furious that she's in a situation desperate enough to require using me as emergency salvation after 7 years of staying away. My security team is already tracking her through surveillance feeds, their efficiency suggesting they've identified her location and are currently monitoring her route through downtown, while I sit here with her daughter trying to figure out how someone I thought I'd lost forever just walked back into my life in the most dramatic and dangerous way possible. Your mama is very brave and very smart for knowing I'd protect you. She said you were a good man who does bad things sometimes, but that you'd never hurt a kid no matter what. The assessment is simultaneously flattering and cutting in its accuracy, suggesting Elena still knows exactly who I am beneath the reputation I've built over 7 years of consolidating power in ways that have made my name something people whisper with fear rather than respect. A good man who does bad things. That's probably the kindest description anyone's given me in years. And hearing it from her daughter while Elena herself is somewhere running from danger makes my chest tight with emotions I don't have time to process when there's immediate threat to neutralize. I'm about to call my security team for Elena's current location when my phone buzzes with incoming message that makes my blood run cold. Just a photo of Elena turning a corner 3 blocks away with a single line of text that explains exactly why she sent her daughter to me for protection, and why this situation is significantly worse than I initially calculated. We know who the girl's father is. Tell Marcello his daughter is beautiful. Chapter 2. The Man Who Watches. Investigation. The text message is still burning holes in my vision 10 minutes after it arrived. Those 9 words rearranging everything I thought I understood about why Elena would send her daughter to me specifically. And I'm staring at Lily in my rearview mirror while my brain cycles through calculations that are simultaneously impossible and devastatingly obvious if I'm willing to accept what the timeline is suggesting. She has Elena's dark curls and delicate features. That much is clear. But there's something about the shape of her jaw and the way she tilts her head when she's thinking that triggers recognition. I've been actively avoiding since the moment she grabbed my jacket. And if those features are what I think they are, then the last 7 years of my life have been built on incomplete information about exactly why Elena disappeared without explanation. How old are you, Lily? The question comes out more carefully than I intend, like I'm approaching something fragile that might shatter if I push too hard. And I watch her hold up 6 fingers with the kind of innocent pride that children have about their age, while my hands tighten on the steering wheel hard enough that my knuckles go white with the effort of maintaining control. I'm 6 3/4, which is almost 7. Mama says I'm very mature for my age. 6 3/4, which means she was born approximately 7 years ago, give or take a few months, which puts conception right around the time Elena disappeared from my life without explanation, after 3 months of the kind of intense connection I've never managed to replicate with anyone else. The math is straightforward and devastating, and I'm trying to convince myself that coincidental timing doesn't equal confirmation when Lily shifts in the back seat, and I catch her profile at an angle that makes my breath stop completely, because I've seen that exact expression on my own face in mirrors for 34 years of careful observation. She's mine. The realization hits with the force of physical violence. This child who called me a stranger 5 minutes ago is my daughter, and Elena has been raising her alone for 7 years, while I built an empire on the foundation of not knowing I had someone who mattered more than power or money or any of the carefully constructed priorities that have defined my adult life. The fury that follows is cold and controlled, the kind of dangerous anger that's gotten people killed when directed at threats I actually wanted to eliminate. But this rage is complicated by the fact that I don't know yet whether Elena kept this secret to protect Lily from my world or to punish me for something I apparently did that made her choose to disappear rather than tell me I was going to be a father. My phone rings with incoming call from Marco, my head of security, and I answer with voice that comes out significantly sharper than my usual controlled tone, because everything about this situation has stripped away the careful distance I maintain between professional operations and personal investment. Tell me you found her. We tracked her to a building 3 blocks from your current location. She went inside what appears to be a small office building and hasn't emerged. But Dante, we have a problem. Marco's voice carries the kind of careful concern that means whatever he's about to say is going to make this situation worse. The man who was following the child, we identified him from surveillance footage. His name is Viktor Petrov, and he works for the Konstantin family. The Konstantin family, Russian organized crime with territory that occasionally overlaps mine in ways that require careful negotiation to avoid open war. And if they're involved, then this isn't random stalking but calculated targeting that suggests they know something about Lily's parentage that I'm only now figuring out myself. The message about knowing who her father is makes significantly more sense if they've done the research I apparently failed to do, which means Elena has been living under threat for who knows how long while I remained completely ignorant about having a daughter who needed protection I should have been providing. What does the Constantine family want with Elena, and why are they tracking a 6-year-old child? That's what we're trying to figure out, but based on the message you received, they've identified the child as yours and are apparently planning to use her as leverage for something. Marco pauses like he's debating whether to continue. There's more. We pulled surveillance from the last 3 weeks, and Viktor Petrov has been following Elena consistently, always maintaining distance, never approaching, just watching and documenting her routine. 3 weeks of surveillance means this isn't sudden discovery but planned operation, which suggests the Constantines have known about Lily significantly longer than I have, and have been waiting for optimal moment to make their move. The fact that Elena saw them today and made the desperate choice to use me as protection rather than continue trying to handle this alone tells me the threat escalated from observation to active danger. And I'm calculating how many ways I can make Viktor Petrov regret his life choices when Marco continues with information that makes my vision narrow, with the kind of focused rage that precedes extremely calculated violence. We also found evidence that someone tried to grab the child 2 days ago, unsuccessful attempt that Elena managed to evade. But it explains why she was prepared today with a plan that involved sending Lily to you specifically. 2 days ago, someone tried to take my daughter, tried to put hands on a 6-year-old child who had no idea she was being hunted by people who see her as commodity to be used against me. And Elena has been dealing with this escalating threat while I remained completely unaware, because she never told me Lily existed in the first place. The anger is complicated by grudging respect for Elena's tactical thinking under pressure, recognizing immediate danger, and making split-second decision to use the one resource that could guarantee Lily's protection, even if it meant exposing secrets she'd kept hidden for 7 years. Send team to Elena's location, full protection detail, and find out everything about what the Constantines want and how they discovered Lily's connection to me. Already in motion. But Dante, you need to prepare for the fact that Elena might not be cooperative about accepting protection given that she's apparently spent 7 years keeping this child away from your world. She used me today, which means she knows I'm the only option that actually keeps Lily safe. We'll negotiate the details after I've neutralized the immediate threat. I end the call and glance at Lily in the rearview mirror, watching her look out the window with the kind of innocent curiosity that children have about everything, completely unaware that her entire existence has just become the most important priority in my life, despite the fact that I learned she was mine approximately 10 minutes ago. The protective instinct that made me respond to her plea for help has shifted into something more primal and absolute. The kind of paternal drive that would burn down entire organizations to keep her safe from people stupid enough to target what's mine. Are we going to see Mama now? Yes. I have people finding her right now and making sure she's safe. And then we're all going somewhere secure where the bad people can't find you. Mama said you were the strongest person she knew, that you could protect me from anything. The simple faith in Elena's assessment of my capabilities makes my chest tight with complicated emotions, because apparently even after 7 years of separation, she still understands exactly what I'm capable of and trusts me enough to hand over our daughter when danger became immediate. The fact that she described me as strong rather than dangerous suggests she's been telling Lily a sanitized version of who I am, which means she's been protecting our daughter not just from external threats, but also from knowing too much about the violent world that comes with being connected to someone like me. Your mama is very smart, and she was right that I can keep you safe. Nothing is going to hurt you while you're with me. She said you might be scary sometimes, but that you'd never hurt someone who didn't deserve it. The careful phrasing suggests Elena has been preparing Lily for eventual contact with me, despite keeping us apart, which raises questions about whether this was always her plan, or if circumstances forced her hand before she was ready. Either way, the fact that she's given Lily framework for understanding who I am means she hasn't completely written me off as irredeemable monster, just someone whose world is too dangerous for a child to navigate without careful preparation and protection. My phone buzzes again, with message from Marco, containing address where Elena is currently located, and confirmation that she's unharmed but clearly shaken. And I'm calculating fastest route when Lily speaks again, with the kind of innocent question that children ask without understanding the weight their words carry. Are you really going to pretend to be my dad? Or are you actually my dad like Mama's picture? The question makes my foot hit the brake harder than intended. And I'm grateful we're at a red light, because that revelation just stripped away any remaining doubt about whether my calculations were accurate. Elena has a picture of me, which means she's been telling Lily something about who her father is even while keeping us apart. And the casual way Lily asks suggests this isn't new information for her, even if it's devastating news for me. What picture does your mama have? The one she keeps by her bed. She looks at it sometimes when she thinks I'm asleep and she looks sad. 7 years of looking at my picture and being sad. 7 years of Elena carrying whatever complicated feelings she has about me while raising our daughter alone. And I'm torn between fury that she kept this from me and something softer that feels dangerously close to hope that maybe her disappearance wasn't about not wanting me but about protecting Lily from the dangerous world that comes with my name. The light turns green, and I'm moving again, while my brain processes implications that are reorganizing my entire understanding of the last 7 years. I'm your actual father, Lily. Your mama and I knew each other a long time ago, and we're going to figure out how this works now that I know you exist. So you didn't know about me before today? No. Your mama didn't tell me, which means we have a lot to talk about when I see her. Don't be mad at Mama. She said she had good reasons for keeping us away from you, and that she'd explain when I was old enough to understand. The defense of Elena, even while confirming she deliberately kept me in the dark, makes me realize that whatever her reasons, she's been a good mother who's earned Lily's complete trust and loyalty, and that complicates my anger in ways I'm not ready to process when there's immediate threat to handle before I can address 7 years of secrets and choices that shaped my daughter's life without my knowledge or input. Chapter 3. The choice that changes everything. The safe house is 40 minutes outside the city in a location known only to my inner circle, all reinforced security and anonymous luxury that I've used exactly twice in 10 years for situations that required absolute protection from people who wanted me or mine dead. And driving through the gates with my 6-year-old daughter in the back seat feels surreal in ways I'm not equipped to process while still operating in threat. Assessment mode. Lily has been quiet for the last 20 minutes, watching the city fade into suburban landscape with the kind of tired acceptance that suggests the adrenaline from earlier is wearing off and leaving exhaustion in its wake. And when I glance at her in the rearview mirror, I catch her fighting to keep her eyes open, despite obvious determination to stay alert. We're almost there. You can sleep if you need to. I promise you're safe. Mama says I shouldn't sleep around strangers even if they seem nice. The careful repetition of Elena's safety rules makes my chest tight with appreciation for how well she's prepared our daughter to navigate dangerous situations. But you're not really a stranger anymore because you're my actual dad, so I think it's okay. The simple logic delivered with childish certainty makes something crack in the careful control I've maintained since the moment she grabbed my jacket. And I'm struck by the fact that this tiny person who's known me for less than an hour has already decided I'm trustworthy enough to sleep near, despite every reasonable instinct that should make her wary of men who look like they've. Your mama gave you good rules. You should keep following them even with me until you're sure I'm safe. But Mama sent me to you, which means she thinks you're safe for me, even if you're not safe for bad people. The distinction is sharper than a 6-year-old should be capable of making, suggesting Elena has been teaching Lily to think tactically about trust and danger in ways that most children never have to consider. And I'm adding that to the growing list of things we need to discuss when I finally see Elena face to face after 7 years of absence. That's starting to feel less like abandonment and more like sacrifice. I didn't understand. We pull up to the house, and I'm out of the car before my security detail can open doors, reaching back to help Lily out with careful hands that are still learning how to touch someone this small without feeling like I might accidentally break something fragile. She takes my hand without hesitation, small fingers wrapping around mine with trust that feels both precious and terrifying, given how little she actually knows about who I am, beyond what Elena has told her. And I find myself walking slower than necessary just to accommodate her shorter stride while she looks around at the property with wide eyes. This is a really big house. Do you live here? Sometimes, when I need somewhere private and secure. But I have another house closer to the city that's where I usually stay. Does that house have a yard? Mama says yards are important for kids, but we just have a small balcony. The casual mention of their living situation makes me realize I know nothing about how Elena has been surviving for 7 years, whether she's struggled financially or if she's found stability that doesn't require my resources, and I'm adding housing questions to the mental list of information I need to extract once immediate danger is neutralized. Yes, the other house has a yard with space for playing. Maybe you can see it sometime. That would be nice. I've always wanted a yard with grass and maybe a swing. The simple wish delivered with hopeful tone makes me want to buy her 10 swings immediately, which is probably not a healthy paternal impulse, but I'm too new at this to know what's appropriate versus excessive when it comes to giving my daughter things she's been wanting. Inside the house, I guide Lily toward the kitchen because feeding her seems like obvious priority given it's past dinner time, and I have no idea when she last ate. And watching her climb onto a bar stool with careful concentration reminds me that I know absolutely nothing about what 6-year-olds eat or need or how to take care of someone this small. Are you hungry? I can make you something or order food. I'm a little bit hungry, but Mama says I should eat vegetables with every meal and not too much sugar. Your mama is very smart about nutrition. What vegetables do you like? Carrots are okay, and sometimes broccoli if it has cheese, but I don't like the green beans because they're squishy. The detailed preferences delivered with serious expression make me smile, despite the chaos of the last hour, and I'm searching through the refrigerator trying to find something appropriate, when Lily speaks again with the kind of innocent question that shouldn't hurt, but absolutely does. Do you know how to take care of kids? Because Mama is really good at it and I don't want to be difficult. The worried tone suggests she's processing that being separated from Elena means adapting to someone whose parenting skills are completely unknown. And I turn to face her with honest answer that seems safer than pretending competence I absolutely don't have. I don't know much about taking care of kids because I've never done it before, but I'm going to try very hard to do it right, and you can tell me if I'm messing up so I can fix it. That's what Mama says too, that nobody knows everything, and it's okay to make mistakes as long as you try to do better. Elena's parenting philosophy delivered through our daughter's earnest repetition makes me realize she's been teaching Lily grace for imperfection, which suggests she might be willing to extend some of that same patience to me, fumbling through learning to be a father. 7 years too late, I managed to assemble something resembling a balanced meal with carrots and cheese and some pasta that seems safe, and watching Lily eat with careful manners while her legs swing from the tall chair makes my chest tight with emotions I don't have names for yet. This is good. You're a pretty okay cook for someone who doesn't know about kids. That's possibly the nicest compliment I've received in years. Mama says compliments should be honest, so I'm being honest that it's good but not amazing like when she makes her special pasta. I'll have to learn to make special pasta then, so I can be amazing instead of just okay. That would be nice. Maybe Mama can teach you when she gets here. The simple assumption that Elena will teach me things that will somehow navigate toward functioning family, despite 7 years of separation and secrets, makes me want to believe that whatever complicated history exists between us can be rebuilt into something that works for Lily's sake, if nothing else. My phone buzzes with update from Marco confirming Elena is secured and being brought to the safe house within the hour, and suddenly the abstract concept of seeing her again becomes immediate reality I'm not sure I'm prepared to handle. After Lily finishes eating, she's fighting sleep with obvious determination, curled up on the couch with my jacket draped over her like a blanket, because I don't have actual child-appropriate bedding in a house designed for adult emergencies rather than family comfort. And I'm watching her lose the battle against exhaustion when she speaks in drowsy voice that makes something protective roar to life in my chest. You're really my dad? Like actually forever? Yes, actually forever. Nothing changes that. Good, because I always wanted a dad. And Mama said mine was special, and you seem pretty special, even though you're a little bit scary. I'm going to try to be less scary for you. Don't try too hard. Mama says being a little bit scary keeps bad people away. So maybe it's good. Her eyes close on that assessment, and within minutes, She's deeply asleep with the kind of complete trust that children only give when they feel absolutely safe. And I'm sitting here watching my daughter breathe while processing that every priority I've built my life around for 34 years just got completely reorganized around protecting this small person who called me dad like it was the most natural thing in the world. Chapter 4. The Mother, Emotional Revelation. Elena Povi. The drive to wherever Dante's security team is taking me passes in a blur of panic and relief, mixing into something that tastes like bile in the back of my throat. Because sending Lily to him was supposed to buy me time to lead the threat away and circle back to collect her from whatever public space he'd left her in, not result in being escorted by armed men to a location they won't disclose, while my daughter is alone with a man who doesn't know he's her father. 7 years of careful distance is collapsing around me with the weight of choices I made to protect her from a world too dangerous for children. And now, I'm being driven toward the confrontation I've spent every day since she was born trying to avoid. Because explaining to Dante Marcello why I disappeared while pregnant with his child requires admitting truths I'm not sure either of us is ready to hear. The man driving doesn't speak beyond confirming my identity when they found me, just maintains professional silence that suggests he's been trained not to engage with cargo beyond basic transport logistics, and I'm grateful for the quiet, because it gives me space to process the fact that Dante saw Lily, that he held my daughter, and probably noticed the features she inherited from him that I see every time I look at her face. 6 years of lying by omission is about to become active deception if he asks direct questions I can't deflect, and the terror of that confrontation makes my hands shake in ways I can't control, despite years of practice at appearing calm under pressure. We pull through gates that suggest serious money and security concerns, all reinforced walls and surveillance that confirms Dante has built exactly the kind of fortress I was trying to keep Lily away from. And my stomach drops with the realization that I'm about to walk into his territory with no leverage beyond the truth he's going to hate me for keeping. The house is large and anonymous, the kind of place designed for function rather than comfort. And when the driver opens my door with careful courtesy that doesn't quite hide the fact that refusing to exit isn't actually an option, I force my legs to support my weight, despite the fact that every instinct is screaming to run before this gets worse. The front door opens before I reach it, and suddenly I'm looking at Marco Santini, who I remember from 7 years ago as Dante's most trusted security, all professional assessment, as he takes in my appearance with the kind of careful observation that suggests he's cataloging details for future reference. Ms. Chen, Mr. Marcello is inside with your daughter. She's safe and unharmed. The formal use of my name feels wrong, coming from someone who used to call me Elena, back when Dante and I were something that felt permanent before reality intervened with complications neither of us knew how to navigate. And I'm trying to find words that don't sound like accusations, when Marco continues with information that makes my chest tight with emotions I can't afford to feel right now. He's been very protective of her since she asked for his help. You made a good choice sending her to him when you recognized the threat. I didn't have other options. The man following us was getting closer, and I knew Dante would protect a child without asking questions first. He's asking questions now, and I should warn you that he's figured out more than you probably intended him to know. The careful phrasing makes it clear that Marco knows exactly what Dante has discovered, which means my daughter's parentage is no longer secret I can control the revelation of. And I'm walking into a confrontation where Dante holds all the cards because he has Lily and 7 years of justified anger about being kept in the dark about her existence. My hands are shaking harder now, despite my attempts to project calm control. And when Marco opens the door to what appears to be a living room, I'm struck by the sight that makes every carefully constructed defense I've built crumble under the weight of seeing them together for the first time. Dante is sitting on a couch with Lily curled against his side, fast asleep. Her small hand fisted in his shirt like she's afraid he'll disappear if she lets go. And his arm is around her with the kind of careful protectiveness that suggests he's been holding her like this for a while. He looks up when I enter, and the expression on his face is so complex, I can't parse all the emotions fighting for dominance. But anger is definitely there, along with something that might be hurt or possibly betrayal. And when our eyes meet after 7 years of deliberate separation, I feel like I'm 19 again, and desperately in love with a man too dangerous to keep. Elena. My name in his voice after all this time hits like physical blow, and I'm frozen in the doorway trying to figure out how to explain 7 years in a way that doesn't make me sound like the villain in a story where I was just trying to protect everyone involved from outcomes I couldn't control. Dante, I can explain. I know this looks... It looks like you've been raising my daughter for 7 years without telling me she exists, which is exactly what's been happening based on the math and the fact that she has my eyes, and apparently you keep my picture by your bed. The accusation is delivered with controlled fury, that's somehow more terrifying than if he was actually yelling, and I watch him carefully extract himself from Lily without waking her before standing to face me with the kind of predatory focus that reminds me exactly why his name carries weight in circles where violence is currency. He's taller than I remember, or maybe I've just gotten used to not being near someone with his particular brand of barely leashed danger. And when he moves closer, I have to fight the instinct to step back because retreating now would be admitting fear I can't afford to show. She's 6, which means you disappeared right after getting pregnant, which means you made the deliberate choice to keep me from knowing I had a child. I made the choice to keep her safe from a world that eats innocence and destroys anything soft enough to love. The words come out sharper than intended, all the defensive anger I've been carrying for 7 years finding voice. You were consolidating power, making enemies faster than you could neutralize them, and I wasn't going to raise my daughter dodging bullets from people who wanted to hurt you by targeting what you cared about. Our daughter, she's ours, not just yours, and you didn't get to make that choice unilaterally without even giving me the option to protect both of you. What option? You were already committed to building an empire on violence and control. There was no version of that world where a pregnant girlfriend and a baby fit into your plans without becoming liabilities. You don't know what I would have chosen because you never gave me the chance to choose anything. You just disappeared and let me think you'd decided I wasn't worth staying for. The pain in his voice underneath the anger makes my chest tight with guilt. I've been trying to avoid feeling, because leaving was the hardest thing I've ever done, and convincing myself it was the right choice has required ignoring the part of me that wanted to stay and build something impossible with the only man who ever saw past my careful defenses to who I actually was underneath. I couldn't stay. Every day I was with you was another day closer to someone figuring out you cared about me and using that against you. So you protected me by taking away the only thing I've ever actually cared about besides power and money. I protected our daughter by giving her a chance to grow up without being used as leverage against her father. And yes, I protected you by not making you choose between keeping us safe and building what you needed to build. That's a convenient rationalization for a choice that robbed me of 7 years. I'll never get back. 7 years of her life that you decided I didn't deserve to be part of. He's right, and I know he's right, which makes it impossible to defend decisions that seemed clear 7 years ago, but look increasingly selfish when I'm standing here watching him be careful not to wake Lily, while simultaneously being furious with me for keeping them apart. The silence stretches between us loaded with history and hurt and complicated feelings neither of us knows how to articulate. And I'm searching for words that might make this better when Lily shifts on the couch, with small sound that draws both our attention. "Mama?" Her sleepy voice breaks the tension, and I'm moving before conscious thought, crossing to the couch and pulling her into my arms with the kind of fierce grip that comes from hours of not knowing if she was safe, and she wraps her small arms around my neck while making contented sound that suggests she knew I'd come, even if she was scared I wouldn't. "I'm here, baby. You're safe. We're both safe now. I knew you'd come. Dante said you would. He said you were brave and smart, and that you'd be here as soon as it was safe." The simple faith in both of us delivered with childish certainty makes me look at Dante over Lily's head, and the expression on his face is a complicated mix of anger and something softer that might be the beginning of understanding that my choices weren't about not trusting him, but about loving both of them too much to risk the consequences of staying. "Mama, Dante is my actual dad, not just pretend. He told me, and I think you should tell him about the picture because he seems sad that you didn't tell him before." The innocent revelation of secrets I've been keeping makes Dante's expression shift into something more vulnerable than I've seen from him since we were young, and he still let himself feel things without the careful control he wears now. and I'm trying to figure out how to explain 7 years of looking at his picture and crying for choices I made that hurt everyone involved when Lily continues with the kind of brutal honesty that only children possess. She loves you. She told me that my dad was special and that she missed him every day, but that keeping me safe was more important than being with someone she loved. Chapter 5. The Secret That Changes Everything, Dante's POV. Lily's innocent revelation about Elena loving me hangs in the air like smoke I can't clear from my lungs. 7 years of missing someone I thought didn't want me reorganizing into the possibility that she left because she cared too much rather than too little. And I'm trying to process that fundamental shift in understanding when my phone buzzes with incoming call from Marco that suggests the investigation into the Constantine family's interest in my daughter has yielded information I'm not going to like. I step away from Elena and Lily with reluctance that surprises me given how angry I should still be. Moving to the far side of the room where I can take this call without our daughter overhearing details about why people want to hurt her. Tell me you found something that explains why the Constantines are targeting a 6-year-old. We found something, but Dante, you need to prepare yourself because this is significantly worse than territorial dispute or leverage play. Marco's voice carries the kind of careful tension that means whatever he's about to say is going to make this entire situation more dangerous. Viktor Petrov wasn't just surveilling Elena and Lily, he was specifically tracking Lily's routines, documenting everywhere she goes and everyone she interacts with, building a profile that suggests they were planning extraction rather than just observation. Extraction, the clinical word for kidnapping, and hearing it applied to my daughter makes my vision narrow with the kind of focused rage that's gotten people killed when I've had less personal motivation for violence. I'm calculating exactly how many ways I can make Viktor Petrov regret his life choices when Marco continues with information that makes my hands curl into fists hard enough that my knuckles crack with pressure. We also discovered why they targeted her specifically. They've known about Lily's connection to you for approximately 6 months, and they've been waiting for optimal moment to move because they weren't after leverage. They were after inheritance. Explain what inheritance has to do with kidnapping my daughter. The Constantine family has been hemorrhaging money for the last 2 years. Bad investments and territory losses have left them desperate for capital, and they discovered through research that Lily is your only heir, which means she has access to your assets if something were to happen to you. The implication lands like cold water. They weren't planning to use Lily as leverage against me. They were planning to eliminate me and claim guardianship of my daughter to access the fortune I've built over 20 years of careful accumulation and strategic violence, and the calculated cruelty of that plan makes me want to burn their entire organization to the ground in ways that leave no room for recovery or mercy. They were going to kill me and take custody of Lily to control my assets. Yes, and based on the timeline, they were planning to move within the next week, which explains why Elena saw them today and made the desperate choice to use you for protection despite 7 years of keeping Lily hidden. Elena knew. She knew they were planning something, and that's why she sent Lily to me instead of continuing to handle the threat alone. We believe Elena has been aware of surveillance for at least 3 weeks and has been trying to evade them, but the attempted grab 2 days ago made it clear that evasion was no longer a viable option. 3 weeks of Elena knowing our daughter was being hunted by people who wanted to use her as access point to my fortune. 3 weeks of trying to protect Lily alone while I remained completely ignorant about having a child who needed the kind of security I'm capable of providing. And I'm torn between admiration for Elena's capability under pressure and fury that she didn't come to me sooner, before the situation escalated to immediate danger. Send everything you have on the Constantine family's operation to my secure line. I want locations, personnel, financial records, everything that will let me dismantle their entire organization before they can regroup and try again. Already compiled and waiting for your review. But Dante, there's one more thing you need to know before you make decisions about how to handle this. Marco's hesitation suggests whatever he's about to say is going to complicate my plan to eliminate the threat with maximum prejudice. Elena has been working with federal investigators for the last month, providing information about the Constantine family's operations in exchange for protection that apparently wasn't adequate given today's events. Federal investigators, which means Elena hasn't just been evading threats alone, but actively trying to build a case that would neutralize danger through legal channels rather than the violent solutions I specialize in. And that choice tells me volumes about how hard she's been trying to keep Lily away from my world, even when accepting my help would have been significantly easier than cooperating with law enforcement that clearly can't protect them adequately. Get me everything she gave the feds. I need to know exactly what evidence exists and whether her cooperation puts her at additional risk beyond just being Lily's mother. I end the call and turn back to find Elena watching me with the kind of careful assessment that suggests she's trying to read how bad the news was based on my expression. And Lily is still curled against her side with the kind of complete trust that children have in their mothers to keep them safe from dangers they don't fully understand. Walking back toward them feels like moving through water. Every step weighted with the knowledge that Elena has been fighting this battle alone for weeks, while I built empires and accumulated enemies without knowing I had someone who mattered more than power or money or any of the carefully constructed priorities that have defined my adult life. Elena's POV. I watched Dante's expression shift from controlled fury to something colder and more dangerous as he takes that phone call. And I know before he says anything that whatever Marco told him has made this situation significantly worse than just territorial dispute between criminal organizations that occasionally overlap in ways that require violent resolution. 7 years of knowing how Dante thinks means I can read the subtle tension in his shoulders that suggests he's calculating violence with the kind of strategic precision that made him powerful enough to be worth hiding from. And when he turns back toward us with that particular expression I used to see before he'd disappear for days to handle threats he never explained in detail, I know that whatever protective distance I've tried to maintain between Lily and his world we need to talk, privately, about exactly what you know regarding why the Constantines are targeting our daughter. The emphasis on our daughter instead of my daughter feels deliberate, like he's claiming paternal rights through word choice that doesn't leave room for me to keep deflecting shared responsibility. And I'm nodding agreement while trying to figure out how to have this conversation without Lily overhearing details about people who want to hurt her for reasons she's too young to understand. Lily, baby, I need you to stay here while Dante and I talk in the other room. You're completely safe and we'll be right back. Are you going to fight? Because when grown-ups go to another room to talk, it usually means they're going to fight quietly. The perceptive observation delivered with childish worry makes my chest tight with guilt about all the ways my choices have shaped her understanding of adult relationships. And I'm trying to reassure her when Dante crouches down to her level with the kind of gentle attention I remember from before. Violence became his primary language. We're not going to fight. We're going to talk about how to keep you safe, which means discussing things that are boring for kids but important for adults. Okay, but if you do fight, don't be too mean to Mama because she was just trying to protect me, and that's what good moms do. The fierce defense of me from our daughter to the man I kept her from makes something crack in my carefully maintained composure, and I watch Dante's expression soften in ways I haven't seen in years as he promises Lily that he'll be fair before standing and gesturing toward the hallway with controlled courtesy that doesn't quite hide how angry he still is underneath the careful restraint. The room he leads me to is a small office with reinforced door and no windows, the kind of space designed for conversations that require absolute privacy, and once we're inside with the door closed, the careful distance he's been maintaining since I arrived collapses into something more raw, as he turns to face me with accusation, written across features I used to know as well as my own. The Constantines weren't planning to use Lily as leverage. They were planning to kill me and claim custody of her to access my assets. And you've known they were targeting her for weeks without coming to me for help. The blunt delivery of information I've been trying not to think about in those specific terms makes my knees weak with terror I've been suppressing, and I'm gripping the edge of the desk for support while trying to find words that explain why I chose federal cooperation over accepting help from the man whose world I've spent 7 years protecting our daughter from. I knew they were watching, but I didn't know their actual plan until 3 days ago, when my federal contact told me they'd intercepted communications about eliminating obstacles to accessing your fortune. 3 days. You've known for 3 days that they were planning to murder me and orphan our daughter so they could steal her inheritance, and you still didn't come to me. Because coming to you meant admitting everything, meant exposing Lily to exactly the kind of danger I left to protect her from, and I thought maybe the federal case would neutralize the threat before I had to make that choice. The federal case that clearly wasn't adequate protection given that Viktor Petrov was close enough today to grab her if you hadn't sent her running to me. I made the best choice I could with the information and resources I had. And yes, it wasn't enough. Which is why I used you today, despite spending 7 years trying to avoid exactly this situation. This situation where I actually get to protect my daughter from people who want to use her to access my money. This situation where I finally know I have someone who matters more than the empire I've been building. His voice has risen slightly with frustration that's been building since the moment I walked into this house. And I'm trying to respond when he continues with question. I've been dreading since Lily's innocent revelation about the picture by my bed. Why keep my picture if you were so committed to staying away? Why torture yourself looking at someone you decided wasn't worth keeping in your life? Because I never decided you weren't worth it. I decided our daughter deserved to grow up without dodging bullets and learning to recognize threats before she learned to read. The admission comes out harsh with 7 years of suppressed emotion. I looked at your picture every night and hated myself for loving you enough to leave, for knowing that staying meant watching you choose between keeping us safe and building what you needed to build, and I couldn't be the reason you failed at either one. Hey, I'm Lena, the owner of this channel, and there's something I need to know from you. I tested a different POV format between the two protagonists. Did you like it? Do you want me to bring more? Just comment and I'll know. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because we have more amazing stories for you. Chapter 6. Romance and Conflict. Elena's POV. The confession about loving him enough to leave hangs between us like exposed wire. I can't take back. 7 years of carefully guarded truth laid bare in a moment of defensive honesty. And I watch Dante process that admission with expression that cycles through surprise, and something that might be pain before settling into the controlled mask he wears when emotions get too close to the surface. The small office feels too confined to contain both of us and all the unresolved feelings that have been accumulating since the moment I disappeared. And I'm trapped between the desk and the reality that admitting I still love him means acknowledging that leaving didn't protect my heart the way it protected our daughter. You loved me enough to leave, but not enough to trust me with the choice about whether to keep you both safe. His voice is quieter now. All the fury from moments ago transmuted into something more complicated that sounds almost like hurt underneath the accusation, and I'm trying to find words that explain the difference between trust and terror when he moves closer with the kind of careful approach that suggests he's trying not to spook me into retreat. I trusted you with everything except the one thing that mattered most. I trusted that you'd become exactly what you needed to be, powerful and untouchable and dangerous to anyone stupid enough to threaten what's yours. And you didn't want to be mine. Didn't want Lily to be something I'd have to protect from consequences of building that power. I wanted it so much it terrified me. Wanted to stay and watch you build your empire and raise our daughter in whatever safety you could provide. But wanting something doesn't make it right when the cost is measured in potential bullets and kidnapping attempts. The kidnapping attempts happened anyway. You've been dealing with surveillance and threats for weeks. So tell me how 7 years of separation protected either of you better than letting me actually provide the security I'm capable of delivering. The question is valid in ways that make my chest tight with recognition. That maybe my choice protected my own fear of loss more than it actually protected Lily from danger. And I'm struggling to articulate the difference between theoretical threat and reality, when Dante's hand comes up to touch my face with gentleness that contradicts everything about his intimidating presence. I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm not demanding anything beyond cooperation in keeping our daughter safe. But Elena, you need to understand that I'm going to protect both of you, regardless of whether you want my protection or think you deserve it. The careful distinction between protecting me and requiring my emotional investment makes something crack in my defenses. Because this is Dante offering safety without conditions attached, giving me what I need without demanding payment in the form of affection. I'm not sure I'm capable of expressing after 7 years of deliberate distance, Dante's POV. I watch Elena's expression shift from defensive to something more vulnerable as I make it clear that protection isn't conditional on her feelings, and the relief in her eyes suggests she's been bracing for ultimatums about custody or demands for reconciliation that I'm too smart to make when she's already overwhelmed with guilt and fear. 7 years apart hasn't diminished the attraction I feel standing this close to her. All the want I thought I'd successfully buried underneath building power and accumulating enemies. And it would be easy to use this moment of vulnerability to push for more than she's ready to give, except that Lily is in the next room trusting both of us to be adults who prioritize her safety over our own complicated history. I don't expect you to make decisions about us right now. I'm not even sure what us could look like given everything between us. But I need you to accept that Lily is mine, and I'm going to be present in her life in whatever capacity works for keeping her safe. I know. I sent her to you today because I knew you'd protect her. Knew that whatever anger you had about me keeping her from you would come secondary to making sure she was safe. You were right, the moment she asked me to pretend to be her father. Every other priority I've built my life around became irrelevant compared to keeping her protected. She has your eyes. I've been looking at them for 6 years, and seeing you every time she concentrates on something, or gets that determined expression when she's made up her mind. The admission is delivered with something that sounds like affection, mixed with regret. And I'm trying to process the fact that Elena has been seeing me and Lily for years, while I remained completely ignorant when she continues with observation that makes my chest tight. She trusts you already, completely and without reservation, which means I did something right in telling her about you even if I did it from a distance. What did you tell her exactly? How did you explain having a father who wasn't present? I told her you were strong and smart, and that you kept people safe for a living. That you would have been here if you'd known about her, but that Mama had made choices to keep her protected. That meant you didn't get to know. You made me the absent hero instead of the villain who didn't know. That's more generous than I deserve, given you had to handle everything alone. You deserved to know. I'm not defending that choice anymore. But I did try to make sure she loved the idea of you even if she couldn't have the reality. The careful distinction between what she owes me and what she's given Lily makes me realize that Elena has been trying to be fair to everyone involved, even when fairness required. Sacrifice that hurt her more than it protected anyone, and that recognition softens some of the anger that's been driving my reactions since discovering I had a daughter. I need time. We both need time to figure out how this works. But Elena, you should know that seeing you again after 7 years hasn't diminished anything I felt before you left. The confession is more vulnerable than I intended. All the careful control I usually maintain, stripped away by exhaustion and adrenaline, and the reality that the woman I loved is standing 3 feet away, looking at me like she's trying to decide whether believing me is safe, or just another way to. Dante, I can't. We can't just pick up where we left off like 7 years didn't happen. Like I didn't make choices that hurt you, and like you didn't build a life that's exactly what I was afraid of. I'm not asking to pick up anything. I'm telling you that my feelings haven't changed even if circumstances have. And that's information you can do whatever you want with while we figure out how to co-parent a daughter who deserves better than parents who can't be in the same room without dredging up history. She deserves parents who love her more than they hate each other for past mistakes. I don't hate you. I'm furious about lost time, but I don't hate you. And based on what Lily said about the picture by your bed, you don't hate me either. Elena's POV. His accuracy about my feelings makes it impossible to maintain the emotional distance I've been trying to preserve. And I'm caught between wanting to close the space between us and knowing that giving in to 7 years of suppressed attraction would complicate everything we're trying to navigate for Lily's benefit. What I feel doesn't matter if acting on it puts Lily at risk by making me something you have to protect instead of just her mother you cooperate with. You're already something I have to protect because you're Lily's mother, and because the Constantines know you're connected to me through her. Pretending there's nothing between us doesn't make you less of a target. Then we agree to table whatever this is until after the threat is neutralized, and Lily is actually safe, instead of just temporarily protected. Agreed, but Elena, when we do have that conversation, you should know I'm going to fight for more than just cordial co-parenting. The promise is delivered with enough intensity that I can't pretend I don't understand what he means, and I'm trying to formulate response when Lily's voice carries from the other room with question that breaks the tension. Mama, Dante, are you done with boring adult talk? Because I'm hungry, and Dante said he's not a very good cook. The innocent interruption makes us both smile, despite the heavy conversation. And when we return to the living room to find Lily looking at us with hopeful expression that suggests she's been listening for signs of conflict. Dante crouches down to her level with gentleness that makes my heart ache. We're done talking, and you're right that I'm not a very good cook, so maybe your mama can help me figure out what to make for dinner. Mama makes really good pasta. Maybe she can teach you. I'd like that. Learning from your mama sounds like a good plan. Chapter 7. The Confrontation. The next 72 hours pass in careful choreography of building a case that will dismantle the Constantine family's operation, while simultaneously keeping Elena and Lily insulated from the violence that typically accompanies territorial disputes in my world. And I'm discovering that having a 6-year-old daughter changes the calculus of acceptable collateral damage in ways that require more strategic precision than I've needed in years of solving problems with maximum force and minimum concern about witnesses. Marco has compiled enough evidence of the Constantine's plan to eliminate me and claim custody of Lily that federal prosecutors are salivating over potential RICO charges. But relying on legal process means accepting timelines that leave my daughter vulnerable for weeks, while bureaucracy moves at speeds designed for thoroughness rather than immediate protection. I'm reviewing surveillance footage of Viktor Petrov's movements over the last month, when Elena appears in the doorway of the office I've been operating from. All careful distance maintained over 3 days of coexisting in the same house, while we navigate how to be parents without addressing the unresolved attraction that makes every accidental touch feel loaded with implications. Neither of us is ready to explore. She's holding coffee I didn't ask for, the kind of domestic gesture that suggests she's been paying attention to my routines, despite trying to maintain emotional boundaries. And when I take the cup, our fingers brush with contact that shouldn't feel significant, but absolutely does. Lily's asleep. She wanted me to tell you goodnight, but didn't want to interrupt your work. She could never interrupt. I should have gone to say goodnight myself instead of being buried in this. The guilt about prioritizing threat elimination over bedtime rituals makes me realize I'm already failing at basic parenting, despite only being a father for 3 days. I'm trying to figure out how to neutralize the Constantines without Lily ever knowing the specifics of what her father is capable of when protecting what's his. She's 6. She doesn't need to know details about violence. She just needs to know you'll keep her safe. Elena settles into the chair across from my desk, with the kind of weary acceptance that suggests 3 days of constant vigilance is taking a toll. What's your timeline for ending this? Because I can't keep Lily in lockdown indefinitely without her starting to ask questions I don't know how to answer. 48 hours. I'm giving the Constantines 48 hours to make a move that justifies the response I'm planning, and if they don't provide that justification, I'll create circumstances that force their hand. You're baiting them, using yourself as target to draw them into engagement you can win decisively. Yes. And before you argue about the risk, understand that the alternative is waiting for them to regroup and try again when we're less prepared. I'd rather control the timing and location of confrontation than react to their schedule. I hate that this makes sense. I hate that the logic of violence is something I understand because of loving you. The casual admission of present tense. Loving instead of past tense loved makes my hands still on the keyboard, and I'm trying to decide whether pushing for clarification is wise when she continues with observation that suggests she's been thinking about this more than our agreement to table emotional discussions would suggest. Lily asked me today if you were going to be her dad forever, or just until the bad people went away. What did you tell her? I told her you're her father forever, regardless of what happens with threats, or whether her parents figure out how to be together, that some things don't change even when circumstances do. That's more faith in my commitment than I've earned in 3 days of knowing she exists. You've been patient with her questions, gentle when she's scared, present in ways that matter more than grand gestures. That's enough to earn faith that you're not going anywhere. The assessment delivered with quiet certainty makes my chest tight with determination to be worthy of that faith. And I'm trying to articulate that when my phone buzzes with message from Marco that makes everything about the careful timeline I've been building accelerate into immediate crisis. Constantine team moving on your location. ETA 15 minutes. They're coming heavy with intent to breach. The clinical description of incoming attack makes my blood run cold because 15 minutes isn't enough time to evacuate Elena and Lily to secondary location, which means we're about to have exactly the confrontation I was planning except on their timeline, rather than mine, and with my daughter in the house instead of secured somewhere safe. I'm on my feet and moving before conscious thought, issuing rapid orders to Marco about defensive positions while simultaneously calculating how to keep Elena and Lily away from windows and potential lines of fire. Elena, I need you to take Lily to the reinforced room on the second floor, the one Marco showed you on the first day, and I need you to stay there until I come get you personally. What's happening? Why do you look like someone just declared war? Because someone did. The Constantines are moving on this location, and they're coming prepared for resistance, which means the next hour is going to involve the kind of violence I wanted to keep Lily from ever witnessing. I watch her process that information with the kind of calm I remember from before she left. All practical assessment of threat rather than panic. And she's nodding and moving toward the stairs before I can explain further details about defensive preparations. My security team is already positioning with professional efficiency that suggests we've drilled for exactly this scenario. All overlapping fields of fire and reinforced positions that will turn any breach attempt into costly engagement. But knowing intellectually that we're prepared doesn't diminish the fury I feel about the Constantines, forcing confrontation while my daughter is sleeping upstairs. The first gunshots come exactly 14 minutes after Marco's warning. All professionals suppressed fire that suggests they've brought contractors rather than relying on their own people. And I'm returning fire from behind reinforced position while calculating angles that will eliminate threats without risking penetration to upper floors where Elena has Lily secured. The engagement is brutal and efficient. All the violence I'm capable of directed at people stupid enough to attack my home while my family is inside. And when the first wave retreats with casualties, I know they're regrouping for second attempt rather than accepting defeat. Marco appears beside me with assessment that confirms what I already suspected about their tactical approach. They're not trying to kill you. They're trying to create enough chaos to grab the girl during evacuation. This is extraction operation disguised as assault. Then we don't evacuate. We hold position and make them come to us on ground we control. And when they commit to breach, we eliminate every single person stupid enough to try taking my daughter. The cold certainty in my voice makes Marco nod with understanding that this isn't about territory or pride, but about protecting what matters more than any strategic consideration. And when the second wave comes 20 minutes later, we're ready with overlapping fire that turns their approach into tactical disaster. I watch through scope as Viktor Petrov himself leads the breach attempt. All desperate aggression that suggests the Constantines have committed everything to this operation. And when I put a round through his shoulder that drops him before he reaches the door, I feel satisfaction that's probably unhealthy, but absolutely warranted. The engagement ends with the Constantines' team retreating and leaving their wounded, all tactical surrender that confirms they've lost this particular confrontation. And I'm securing the perimeter when I hear small voice from upstairs that makes my heart stop completely. Dante, Mama said you were keeping us safe. Are the bad people gone now? Lily is standing at the top of the stairs with Elena behind her, looking exhausted and terrified, and I'm climbing toward them while trying to figure out how to explain gunfire and violence to a 6-year-old who just witnessed proof that her father is exactly as dangerous as her mother was trying to protect her from. When I reach her level, she's looking at me with wide eyes that are trying to be brave despite obvious fear. And I crouch down so we're face to face before speaking with honesty that feels more important than comfortable fiction. The bad people tried to hurt us, but they're gone now. And they're not coming back because they understand that trying to take you from me was the worst mistake they could have made. Were you scared? Yes. I was terrified that they might hurt you or your mama. Being scared when protecting people you love is normal. Mama said you were strong enough to keep us safe. She was right. You were very brave. The simple assessment delivered with childish certainty makes something in my chest crack, and I'm pulling her into careful hug when she wraps small arms around my neck and whispers against my shoulder with words that reorganize every priority I've built my life around. I'm glad you're my real dad and not just pretend. Pretend dads probably aren't as good at protecting people. I didn't pretend, Lily. From the moment you asked for my help, I was your father in every way that matters. I just didn't know it yet. I think I knew. That's why I picked you when Mama said to run. Because you look like someone who protects people. Chapter 8. Epilogue. Emotional and romantic ending. Elena's POV, 3 months later. The kitchen in Dante's main house is significantly larger than the small apartment Lily and I shared for 6 years. All granite counters and professional appliances that still feel intimidating despite 3 months of learning to navigate spaces designed for comfort rather than just function. And I'm watching through the window as Dante pushes Lily on the swing he had installed 2 weeks after we moved in, with the kind of careful attention that suggests he's still learning how much force is appropriate. For a 6-year-old who wants to go higher, but isn't quite ready for the terror that comes with actual height. The sound of her laughter carries through the glass and makes my chest tight with complicated emotions about how completely our lives have been reorganized around the reality that running from Dante was protecting her from exactly the kind of safety she deserved to have all along. 3 months since the Constantines made their fatal attempt to take what wasn't theirs. 3 months of federal prosecutors building cases that will ensure the remainder of their organization spends decades in prison for crimes that go far beyond just threatening my daughter. And 3 months of learning how to coexist with a man I left 7 years ago because I loved him too much to watch him choose between keeping us safe and building the power that's made him untouchable. The transition hasn't been seamless or simple. All careful negotiations about boundaries and parenting decisions, and what it means to share space with someone whose feelings haven't diminished despite 7 years of separation. I can't fully justify now that I understand how capable he is of providing the protection I thought required distance. Dante catches me watching and smiles with the kind of unguarded expression I remember from before violence became his primary language. All genuine warmth that he reserves for moments when he thinks no one important is paying attention. And I'm struck by how much softer he's become in the space of 3 months with a daughter who demands honesty and patience rather than intimidation. Lily says something that makes him laugh, the sound carrying through the window with unfamiliar frequency that suggests fatherhood has unlocked parts of him I thought were casualties of building an empire. And when they head toward the house together, with her small hand wrapped trustingly in his, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for the choice she made to run to him when danger became immediate. Mama, Dante says I went really high on the swing, did you see? I saw. You were very brave. And Dante was very careful to make sure you stayed safe while going high. He's good at keeping people safe, that's his job. The simple classification of Dante's complicated profession, delivered with childish certainty, makes him smile with something that looks like relief, that she understands him as protector rather than threat. Can we make the special pasta tonight? I want to teach Dante the recipe like I promised. That sounds perfect. We can all cook together. Watching Dante take direction from a 6-year-old about proper pasta preparation with the kind of serious attention he usually reserves for tactical planning makes me fall in love with him all over again, in ways I've been trying to resist for 3 months of careful emotional distance. He's patient when she corrects his technique, gentle when she needs help reaching ingredients, and completely focused on making sure she feels heard and valued in ways that suggest he's been studying how to be a good father, with the same strategic precision he brings to everything else he considers important. Mama, you're staring at Dante with the face you make when you look at the picture by your bed. The innocent observation delivered with enough volume that Dante definitely heard makes heat crawl up my neck, and when I glance at him, I find him watching me with intensity that suggests we're about to have the conversation we've been avoiding for 3 months, while we figured out how to be parents before attempting to be anything else. Lily, why don't you go wash your hands before we start cooking? And take your time because Mama and I need to talk about boring adult things. You always say boring adult things when you want to talk about feelings. I'm 6, not stupid. Lily's assessment is delivered with the kind of perceptive accuracy that makes both of us laugh, despite the tension. But I'll go wash my hands slowly so you have time to figure out if you're going to kiss or keep pretending you don't want to. Dante's POV. Lily's exit leaves Elena and me alone in the kitchen with 3 months of unresolved attraction filling the space between us. And I'm trying to figure out how to approach this conversation without pushing too hard, when she speaks first with the kind of honesty I've been hoping for, but not demanding. She's right. I do look at you the way I look at that picture. And I have been for 3 months while trying to convince myself that wanting you is separate from needing you to co-parent effectively. And have you convinced yourself of that separation? No. Turns out watching you be a good father while also being protective and patient and genuine makes it impossible to maintain the emotional distance I thought was necessary. Elena. I've been waiting for you to be ready. I meant what I said about not demanding anything beyond cooperation. But if you're saying what I think you're saying, then I need to hear it clearly. I'm saying that I was wrong about needing to keep Lily away from your world, that she's safer with you than she ever was with me trying to protect her alone, and that maybe I was also wrong about needing to protect myself from loving you too much. The admission delivered with vulnerable honesty makes me cross the kitchen in 3 strides, and when I frame her face with both hands, I can feel her trembling slightly, despite the certainty in her words. I've been in love with you for 7 years, through your absence, and the anger and discovering I had a daughter. Nothing about my feelings has changed except now I get to have both of you in my life if you'll let me. I never stopped loving you. I just convinced myself that loving you from a distance was safer than staying and watching everything fall apart. Nothing is falling apart. We're building something better than what we had before, because now we have Lily and the Hugh. Knowledge that running doesn't protect anyone from dangers that exist regardless of distance. I kiss her before she can overthink or retreat into the careful boundaries she's been maintaining, and the contact is everything I've been wanting for 3 months of watching her move through my house like she belongs here, all suppressed desire and genuine emotion mixing into something that feels permanent rather than just complicated. She responds immediately, hands coming up to grip my shirt like she's afraid I'll pull away. And when we finally break apart, we're both breathing hard and staring at each other like we've crossed a line we can't uncross. Lily is going to be insufferably smug about being right about us wanting to kiss. She's earned the right to be smug. She's been managing our relationship better than we have for 3 months. Does this mean we're actually together? Like officially trying instead of just coexisting carefully? This means I'm yours if you want me. Completely, and without reservation. And that I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that choosing me isn't the dangerous option. You've been afraid of. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm just trying to figure out how we make this work long-term, without falling into old patterns that hurt us both. We make it work by being honest, by letting Lily keep us accountable when we're being stupid about feelings, and by remembering that we're stronger together than we ever were apart. Elena's POV, 6 months later. The charity gala Dante insisted on attending despite his usual avoidance of social obligations is exactly as overwhelming as I expected. All expensive people making polite conversation while assessing everyone else's worth through lenses I'm still learning to navigate. But walking in on his arm with Lily between us, wearing a dress she picked out herself, makes the scrutiny feel manageable in ways it wouldn't have 6 months ago. We're building something that looks like family from the outside and feels like home on the inside, all imperfect navigation of blending lives that were separate for too long, and learning to trust that love is enough foundation to build on when combined with genuine effort. Lily has been collecting admiring comments about her dress, with the kind of confidence that comes from knowing both her parents think she's perfect, and watching Dante crouch down to adjust her necklace with careful attention, while she chatters about everything she's noticed, makes my chest tight with gratitude for the choice she made to trust a stranger when danger became immediate. Mama, people keep saying I look like Dante. Do you think I look like him? Yes, baby. You have his eyes and his smile and his determination. You're very much your father's daughter. That's good, because he's really great at being a dad. So if I'm like him, then maybe I'll be great at things too. The simple logic delivered with childish certainty makes Dante's expression do something vulnerable, and I watch him pull Lily into gentle hug while whispering something against her hair that makes her giggle and squeeze him tighter. This is what I was afraid of 7 years ago. This exact kind of profound connection that makes loss unthinkable. And understanding that my fear was about protecting myself rather than actually protecting Lily makes me realize that running was always going to fail. Because love doesn't diminish with distance. It just hurts more when you're alone. Later, when Lily is asleep in the car on the drive home, exhausted from an evening of being charming and brave in spaces that are still new to her, Dante reaches across the console to take my hand, with the kind of casual intimacy that's become familiar over 6 months of actually being together. She asked me today if we were going to get married. Apparently her friend at school has parents who are married and she wants to know if that's something we're planning. What did you tell her? I told her that marriage is something adults decide together when they're ready, and that whether or not we get married doesn't change the fact that we're a family. That's a good answer, mature and honest. But for the record, I want to marry you, not because Lily asked or because it's expected, but because I want you permanently in ways that include legal recognition of what we're building. The proposal delivered casually while driving home with our daughter asleep in the backseat is so perfectly Dante that I'm laughing through tears I didn't realize were falling. Yes, I want that too. Permanent and legal and completely committed to building this family the right way. Then we'll figure out timing that works for all of us, including letting Lily help plan, because she'll never forgive us if we make decisions about our family without her input. Dante's POV, 1 year later. The small wedding in our garden is exactly what Elena wanted. All intimate gathering of people who actually matter instead of social obligation disguised as odd celebration. And watching Lily walk down the makeshift aisle in her flower girl dress with the kind of serious concentration that suggests she's been practicing this moment for weeks makes my chest tight with emotions I've stopped trying to name or control. She reaches us and carefully arranges Elena's dress with the kind of gentle attention that proves she's been studying how to be helpful. And when she looks up at both of us with expression that's pure joy mixed with satisfaction about her parents finally making this official, I'm struck by how completely my life has been reorganized around protecting and loving these two people. Elena is beautiful in simple dress that doesn't require excessive ornamentation to be stunning, all genuine emotion rather than performed elegance. And when we exchange vows that we wrote ourselves, I'm aware that every word is promise I'll spend the rest of my life keeping. The ceremony is short, because Lily has limited patience for standing still. And when we're finally pronounced married, and I kiss Elena with Lily squeezed between us demanding to be included in the celebration, I realize that the moment my daughter asked me to pretend to be her father was the moment my actual life began. Later, when Lily is asleep after too much cake and dancing, Elena and I are alone in the quiet house that's become home in ways my previous spaces never were, and she's looking at me with expression that suggests she's processing everything that's happened in the year since we stopped running from each other. She asked you to pretend, and you discovered you always were. I was her father from the moment she trusted me enough to ask for protection. Everything else was just figuring out the details. Thank you for being patient while I figured out that running was costing us more than staying ever could. Thank you for being brave enough to send her to me when danger made the choice clear. That one decision changed everything. She changed everything. She's been smarter than both of us from the beginning. She gets that from you. The intelligence and the bravery and the ability to trust when trust is warranted. She gets the protectiveness and the loyalty and the capacity for profound love from you. We both gave her pieces of who we are. Then we gave her the best possible foundation, and everything else we'll figure out together. I pull Elena close and feel her relax against me with the kind of complete trust that took a year to rebuild, but was worth every careful step. And in the quiet of our home with our daughter sleeping upstairs, I'm grateful for the 6-year-old who grabbed my jacket and asked me to pretend to be her father. Because that simple request led to discovering the family I didn't know I needed until it became the only thing that actually mattered. She asked me to pretend I discovered I always was. And in that discovery, we all found home.